Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to the Radio Toons podcast. How's it going?
It's going great, man.
I'm Steve.
I'm Ernie.
I know this is random, but me and Ernie are brothers. I don't know if that's clear. But I
Wait, is that something you don't think the audience knows?
Well, because I always take note of when, like, brothers do things in entertainment, or, like, when there's, like, these two brothers started, like, Van Halen, or, like, AC/DC, or whatever, right? Or, like,
Cuphead.
Studio MDHR. Yeah, they're, like, brothers.
The fact that we talk about Devil May Cry and their brothers.
Yeah, I was looking up some Rockstar stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's run by two brothers.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Sam Hauser and Dan Hauser are the
Of the Hausers.
Yeah, they're what is it called? I believe that's their name. Sorry if I'm incorrect. What is it? It's like, since they're not like CEOs, they're both like partnering to own it or whatever. They're like I don't know what you call it. I don't know what the term is, but they're the head honchos. They're the big boys.
Gotcha.
There. But yeah, so obviously, Red Dead is in the news and all that, you know. Me and Ernie also watched Daredevil. So if you haven't watched Daredevil...
To be clear, it's not season 3.
What do you...
Sorry, it's not the movie, it's season 3.
Oh, yeah. Season 3 of Daredevil, so we're going to spend some time on that too. So I'm just saying, if you haven't seen it, go watch it before you dive into this podcast, because it's going to be a big one.
Humdinger.
Yeah. So what happened this week, Ernie? So
there's a lot of stuff. Something that kind of pertains to us in particular is the PlayStation Classic came out.
It didn't come out, but the games got announced.
The games got announced, sorry.
And
and people, I gotta say, the games that they announced aren't terrible. They're not terrible games. They're just not the hits.
Yeah, I would agree. They're not games that I'm really asking for. But the good thing is they threw them all out there already, because I was listening to the Easy Allies podcast, and they were saying, like, why would you announce 5 games at a time? It's like, if you're gonna like make this a pattern, it's like you're gonna piss off people every time you release those next 5 games. Yeah. And I was like, that's so true. And it's like, this way they're just like peeling the Band-Aid off like right away, like just.
Yeah, I think they knew they didn't have a strong lineup either, because if you think about it, any person who loves PlayStation. Probably the first thing that comes to mind is Crash Bandicoot, sorry.
Crash Bandicoot. No, yeah. And I know a lot of people will say, like, oh, the trilogy's remastered and stuff, but it's like, how do you have a PlayStation without Crash?
Yeah, that's the thing. It was the mascot of the system. For a long time before he ended up getting on like Game Boy and all these other things. And it was like one of those things where he became the mascot. And yet when you revive this like PlayStation Classic, how do you not put the original game on there?
Yeah, so to be clear, so Crash isn't on there and Spyro's not on there.
No.
We actually have the list right here. Can you bring it up, Ernie, for 1 sec? Sorry, we have it right here. It's there it is. Okay, so Grand Theft Auto's on there, the original one. What is that right next to it? I can't even see that.
What are you looking, Grand Theft Auto? It's called Intelligent Cube.
I've never even heard of this game.
Steven used to play this other game like all the time, Jumpin' Flash.
I do love that game. That's a good one.
Here's the classic for sure. It's Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear, Mr. Driller. Was it Oddworld? Oh, Oddworld's on there. That's a good one.
On there. That's a good one.
Okay, and then Persona 1, Rayman. Pretty good. Resident Evil. You gotta have that one.
Director's Cut. That's a good distinction too, because it's the director's cut. Okay. It's not just the original game.
Yeah.
Ridge Racer 4, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo.
Okay, sure.
Siphon Filter, which I remember playing and enjoying, but it wasn't like one of those things where I was like, oh, dude, you guys remember Siphon Filter?
I remember Siphon Filter was kind of like it was like a novelty. Like, there was like some exploit that my friends would like to do, but beating the game was not. Like, it's not Metal Gear, obviously, or it's not like
a run and gunner,
or it's not like Crash, is where it's like a solid ass game.
You got Tekken 3.
Okay.
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Now, I enjoyed that game.
I remember I actually used to like that game.
Oh my god, was it ridiculously difficult?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a friend of ours, John, would play it like nonstop.
I had this like fucking scratched up ass copy of that game, like, in my room somewhere. I don't know where I got it from. I don't know which friend just left it at my house.
Probably John.
But I remember I would only play like 2 levels in that game because
it was hard.
It was, but especially like when I was a kid, I hated games where like you didn't have a lot of freedom, and that game was definitely like, oh, you shoot like the wrong person once, and it's like missions failed, like it's over.
Vision mailed, totally. Twisted Metal.
Okay.
Wild Arms.
What are those four at the top? I can't see them.
Well, it's Cool Borders 2.
Okay, that one it was asked for.
Destruction Derby.
Okay, it's a very generic title.
Final Fantasy 7.
Awesome,
Obviously,
awesome.
You gotta have that.
Yeah, my favorite game.
And then the last one was called Battle Arena Toshinden or something like that. I can't. I'm not gonna try and read that.
So no medieval, no Tomb Raider. I know Tomb Raider 2. I know Tomb Raider is not like an amazing game, but how do you have a PlayStation without Tomb Raider, dude? That was like the.
That's a quintessential PlayStation game. That's where she started.
Or like Parappa. Like, why isn't everybody who's in like PlayStation All Stars?
Right.
Like
that, yeah, like for example, like this guy that tweeted out, I'm gonna kind of read off his, but like Ape Escape, Legend of Dragoon, Final Fantasy Tactics, Bushido Blade. That was one that I loved. I love that game. Parasite Eve, and then Legacy of Kain. And that was weird because I remember that game on the Sega Dreamcast because they redid it for that system.
Part 2, wasn't it?
Legacy.
Soul Reaver.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legacy of Kain was the one with Kain, the vampire game.
Yeah, the Kain the vampire.
And it was like an isometric like Diablo game.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
And then he got his own line of games, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Blood Omen.
His are Blood Omen. Legacy of Kain is like the subtitle because it's Legacy of Kain Blood Omen, which is Kain's story. And then Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, which is Raziel.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then there's one other person, too, I think.
Soul Reaver. Anyway, Soul Reaver was badass.
Oh my god, I love Soul
No,
Reaver.
then there was Legacy of Kain Defiance, which was both of them.
Right.
Like, they came together. Yeah. Dude.
And it was great because at that point you had the Soul Reaver sword in your hand. So, like, and you could, like, shoot with it. And it would, like... You had the physical sword, and then you had the spirit of the sword. The
soul of the sword, yeah.
That was so cool.
Dude, that was a great game. I remember that was like... That game really stuck out to me as like a really imaginative game, you know? I remember I would always draw Raziel like on like the sides of my homework and stuff. Just because it's like... When characters and like stories are that creative enough, like to that they make like this own world... It just really gives you the opportunity to like jump into it, you know, and just kind of be engulfed by everything about it.
The person who designed that Raziel as a when he was killed or whatever you call it, when he becomes the Soul Reaver, it's such an amazing like concept of a character. Yeah, because like Raziel doesn't have a mouth. He's literally just like the top part of his skull with fangs. Yeah. And so to like hide his shame, he wears a scarf. Yeah. And it looks so cool. Like, and then he had wings, but like Kain rips them off of you. Yeah. So you have like these flaps of skin behind you that you can use to like float. Yeah. Just like overall such a fun just a fun and creative way to put a character
together. It's really cool, like imagery, like everywhere in that game. Like I really loved how the Soul Reaver soul like looked. It like spirals around your arm. Yeah, and it like becomes like a cool blade. Yeah, it looks like so almost good. Like a Psylocke. Yeah, and then your life bar was not like a. It was almost like
a swirl.
It almost reminds me of like I know everyone compares everything to Dark Souls, but it is like Dark Souls where you didn't die. Once your life got depleted, you got thrown into like another world. That's how it worked, right? Right. And then like you would have to gain souls to come back into the real world.
Or you could go back to the last checkpoint. Yeah. And get stuff there. Yeah, totally.
Like that's crazy. Like they were so ahead of its time, and I honestly feel like that game was like not really played that much. Like I don't know a lot of people that like played that game. So.
And that's the thing. We discovered that series after it came out on PlayStation. We discovered it on the Dreamcast. Yeah. Because they remade those games for that, and then we went back and played some.
You know what's funny, actually, is like I also saw on Twitter somebody tweeted out like, oh, dude, these fucking demo discs had better lineups than PlayStation. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, I played Soul Reaver off a demo disc. Yeah. And I remember that's why we got into it, because it was off a demo disc, and like, it was just the right amount that like we were just like, oh, we gotta play the rest of it, dude. We gotta go get this game. Like,
How pissed. I remember that game so well now. Like the
It would be fun to track down and play. I wonder if it still holds up.
Probably doesn't.
Yeah.
I actually, you know what's funny? I got it on Steam.
Oh yeah.
The original Legacy of Kain, but I can't get it to run properly.
Yeah.
I'm running into the same situation as Sonic Adventure.
It's funny because like I think it was Meg64. They were talking about like, oh, what game would you want on Switch or something, because there's games that like you haven't played in years, and like what would you want to see ported to new consoles or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there just like, it's all on computer. Like, I remember the other day my friend was like, oh man, I haven't played the original Prince of Persia. And I was like, it's on Steam. Like, you want to play, just go buy it on Steam. Like, everything's
on Steam.
Everything is on computer. Like,
there's no reason you can't play that.
It's ridiculous. And I like you just said, Soul Reaver's on there. It's like, it's just a matter of getting things to work and whatnot.
It's funny though. Like, it'd be fun to play it on the Dreamcast again, just because the familiar sounds and everything.
Hell
about
yeah!
It.
Like, yes, like say what you will about like emulation and all that. You can't really replace the original hardware. Like,
no.
Like,
that's why me and Steven always try to get the game. Yeah, I mean, we have PCs and we can emulate anything that we want. But like there's something about popping in the disc and playing an original version of the game.
For sure. And Dreamcast for me especially, because like I know like NES and Super Nintendo, I played those when I was a kid, but like Dreamcast era was like, well, when me and you were like super into games, we were like trying to like get how should I put this? You had a job in high school, so you were able to buy games for your for yourself finally, you know.
Yeah, I was working in and out at the time.
We didn't have to rely on our parents to like get us games and stuff. So
the only thing, it was like, I don't think I was driving yet, so we still had to rely on friends to take us to Funko.
Oh yeah, or like to Blockbuster to get games and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, like we went to Funko and they always had a bin full of Dreamcast games. I was like, oh, let's try this one. Let's try this one.
Yeah.
I remember one game in particular that I got that was a pile of garbage.
Which one?
It's called like Blue Stinger.
Oh, dude, yeah. I forgot about that shit. That game's pretty famous for like having really bad voice acting and like
everything's
animation.
bad about it. There's nothing redeeming about it.
Yeah.
But like the day that I picked up, they're like, "Oh, Resident Evil Code Veronica." I was like, "Oh my god."
Oh hell yeah, dude.
Is this shit?
Yeah, like you know what's weird too is like, I know it's kind of a tangent. I feel like Resident Evil is at its fucking peak right now of like hype. Like, I'm seeing nothing but, like, people dressing up as the characters for Halloween. And, like, everyone's talking about how, like, they're replaying old Resident Evils and stuff. And I know it's because the Resident Evil 2 remake got announced.
Right, I was about to say that.
But, like, also Switch is getting, like, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 0. Did you hear about this?
Yes, I did.
They're getting Resident Evil 0
and,
like,
podcast, actually.
Maybe I did, yeah. And, like, another one. So I was like, oh, shit. They're pulling out all the stops on this Resident Evil train. They're just
Resident Evil 4 on the Switch.
I
wonder how that'll turn out. Because it's just like it's one of those games where it's like, is it still gonna hold up after all these years? Because one of the great things about it was how it broke away from its kind of mold. Like, it was way more actiony than the other ones.
It's funny that you say that, because I will always remember Resident Evil 4 as the one that kind of like made me a believer in Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the other ones, I was always like, I can't play these. Like, I don't like scary stuff, and like, you know, like they're really long and all this shit. Like, just making excuses. And it wasn't until Resident Evil 4 that I was like, oh, this is fucking fun. It was like action packed like the whole time. There's hardly any puzzles. I think there's like 3 or 4 puzzles the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to get through it like pretty fast actually, and I was like, oh, okay. I like Resident Evil now. Like, let me go back and play I played part 1 on DS and I liked it, and then
part 1 was on DS?
Yeah, remember that?
I thought it was part 2.
Resident Evil Deadly Silence, and it was DS. It was
Deadly Silence. But that was the first one?
It was a remake of the first one, yeah. And then I played Revelations, which was really good. I really liked that game too. And I think that's the only ones I played. I've only played like 3 of them.
Code Veronica, I think you'd get a kick out.
Oh, I did play Code Veronica. I just didn't beat it.
It's a hard game to beat.
I was playing it on my Dreamcast and I forgot what happened. I think
it's like one of the first times they have like a 3D camera in Resident Evil, so they took full advantage of it. Like, there's this one part where some guy with 2 golden guns bursts.
Yeah, Steve. It's me.
Steve bursts in there and he's jumping in with a window and he's going.
Yeah,
looks like it's right out of the Matrix.
Steve is pretty.
And then they 360 around him. I was like, oh.
He's pretty lame. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That haircut.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe his dad was like a general or something like that. The map was huge in that game.
Huge.
Because I remember what happened. Now I had a bad save.
Mm-hmm.
I had saved in a room where right outside there was these guys that grab you from really far, and I couldn't get past them or something. I had really low health, and
you were just stuck.
Yeah, I basically fucked myself because that's what happens in old games. You just fuck yourself and you can't do anything about it. But yeah, so
they still have the ink ribbon system in that one.
What the hell were we talking about? PlayStation Classic. Who knows if they hack it? Sure, maybe I'll hop on see what's. I'll pick one
it depends.
up.
I don't know if they've given all the specs for the hardware and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if it has a lot of space, you could always hack it. But, possible it's hackable, but, we'll see. Because PlayStation games are big.
What they honestly should do is just, not even, I guess not even tell people, but just be like, hey, it's really easy. Just drop the files in and you're good to go. Honestly, why not? I mean, if anything,
if you're about to sell all these units, then why
if
not?
anything, that's a selling point, Yeah. Come on, or
I mean, when people figured out you could hack that thing and put 300.
You're
games
pointing
on
at the NES Classic.
Yeah, that was oh, dude, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's HDMI already, so you don't have to finagle a bunch of crap to get it to work. It's just that sold it to me
that. That's what would be awesome too, is that it would you'd finally be able to have really good looking footage of these PS1 games or something like that. I'd probably still bust out the PlayStation 1 and play it, but who knows? Because you could do the PlayStation 3 plays PlayStation 1, and so does PlayStation 2, but I'm not sure if they play them perfectly or what the deal with that is.
I remember playing stuff on the PlayStation 2 for one, and for some reason it didn't look as good.
Really?
And that's how I thought it was.
Okay. I know it has an upscaler actually on the PS2. And the PS3, there was a game that I was playing that wouldn't work actually for some reason. It would get stuck at a loading screen.
Oh, didn't they say blue bottom games don't work or something like that? Remember what?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think
black bottom games didn't work or something, because remember the PlayStation discs, a lot of them were black.
Yeah. I forget, but I know what you're talking about. But I think it was, I don't know actually. I think it was PlayStation 2. They had to deal with the backwards compatibility. If it was blue, it didn't work or something.
Something like that.
Because the early ones were blue on the back. Yeah.
There you go.
Whatever. That was quite a tangent we went on. We were just looking for some way to get back into the Red Dead conversation. Red Dead has been kind of a topic of controversy this week because there's been a lot of hype over the game. Obviously, people were excited to play it, and
I heard it made the amount of money it made shattered any other game release
ever in history.
I think ever, because what I remember my friend talking about it when I got in. He was like, "Did you guys hear about Red Dead?" I was like, "That it sold really well." He's like, "Extremely, it's in the billions." And I was like, "What?"
Fuck, dude.
And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It shattered a bunch of records. It might be the best selling game of the last 10 years, something like that." But I was genuinely surprised, because for starters, I was like, yes, I saw advertising for it, but what's it called? I didn't think that many people were into Red Dead. And the game came out almost 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
For people clamoring for another Red Dead. I mean, I personally always was. But
well, I think a lot of people were. But also, I think people were just waiting for another Rockstar game.
Possibly.
Because, in my case, I didn't even like Red Dead 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I just got this one because I was like, my friend's going to get it, and we game share on PlayStation 4, so I might as well just try it out. They only make a game every couple of years, so, whatever, right?
True.
Unless
they're making ping pong, right?
Yeah. I'm enjoying it so far. I know the intro was pretty grueling. It was long. It was really I think that's the main criticism right now is people are saying it's overly cinematic.
Totally.
There's not a lot of I don't know.
I totally get what they're trying to do. I totally get it. They're trying to set this. They're trying to make you very sympathetic to Dutch's gang, and to make you see like, hey, dude, they go through hardships too. But even though they're outlaws, they have a code of honor.
But the other thing too is that this is Rockstar's. I heard somebody call it like, this is like their art house film, almost, because it's like GTA is almost like pandered to like boyish, like, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like the violence or the sex jokes or like, and Red Dead was like their opportunity to create a more like civilized, like cowboy serious kind of narrative, you know?
Sure.
And I completely understand that. And like it really shows with this game too, is that they're trying to make it more like just fucking not lowbrow, I guess. Just a real cowboy experience, you know, like
super cowboy. I think you're right for the most part. I mean, there's still a lot of juvenile stuff you can do in it, including just shooting whoever you want. But there's just a lot more restrictions in this one that I've seen in other.
Well, that's what. Because it's not really just shoot whoever you want. It's like you shoot somebody and then you have a bounty on your head.
Right.
I have like a $200 bounty on my head right now. I can't fast travel because of it. You can't get in stagecoaches if you have a bounty.
I know.
So
I know, like for as a completely like on the other side of things. I was playing GTA with some friends. Just because we're like, oh man, it should be cool to like get back. In like within 5 minutes, we were just like 5 stars and like holding back the cops with like machine guns and everything, and it was like, this is so not Red Dead.
It's not.
That's not something you could do in Red Dead. You know?
Yeah, and even something like LA Noire, when there's like virtually like no consequences for what you do. Because I remember we were going around that game like running people over and shit, and nothing happens because you're the cops, right?
Yeah.
So, like, but yeah, so a headline that you probably saw this week or last week was everyone was working 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
At Rockstar to push this game out, which was the topic of some controversy because people were saying like, why are you bragging about the slave labor that you're putting your employees through? But because like somebody cleared it up. Apparently, it was like only the 4 lead writers were doing 100 hours.
Okay.
So it wasn't like it was some kind of like, oh, like, you know, we're fixing bugs, the game doesn't work, and people are staying after and shit like that. It was the lead writers, and apparently some of the higher ups or something that wanted to come in. But it wasn't what people imagined, because it's almost like a meme at this point. Everyone's talking about how like look at how good the snow is. 100 hours, you know, that's what you get with the 100 hours work weeks or whatever. But Rockstar is listen. I'm not like a Rockstar fanboy by any means. It's
really not.
I've never really played any Rockstar game other than LA Noire and like Vice City.
Right.
Like, other than that, it's like, no, it's all pretty.
No ping pong for Steve.
No ping pong, no Red Dead Revolver, no fucking Red Dead Redemption 1. I told you that I tried to play it, and I was like, this is it. I'm done. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I just couldn't play it. But yeah, it's because it's partly because of what I said earlier, which is like they kind of pander to that audience that's a little more like violence oriented, or like they're.
I mean, they call themselves Rockstar.
Like, yeah,
so
and
like,
even like the fact that their games are always in the news. Like when Bully came out, I remember Bully was in the news. You know, like Hot Coffee, like with San Andreas. Like they're always like some kind of fucking headline. And I always thought they were more like just like, oh, they're gimmicks, like, you know, like that's what they do. But I was like, but since that fucking 100-hour headline came out, there had been people on Twitter like coming out with like their stories about like, oh yeah, working for Rockstar is not cool. Like I didn't know this, but apparently if you leave Rockstar before a game releases, you're not in the credits.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so if you worked there like basically the entirety of the game, but you left at the end because fuck this place or whatever,
right? You're
not in the credits. You don't get any credit for that. Like it's really bad how it's managed, and like there was one story that I want to tell real fast because it was kind of heartbreaking, honestly, because so it was about Team Bondi, and everyone knows Team Bondi had kind of like a tragic story already because Rockstar just poorly managed them. Mm-hmm. So Team Bondi made L.A. Noire, and this woman named Jen Sandercock worked there, and she apparently like came in towards the end, right? She describes it as like the finish line was in sight. So this is when the game was already like going to come out, right?
Right.
And she was like, people had been working for years on this game already. It had been years of work. Like, people had been coming in on weekends and everything. Everyone was miserable there. So she decided, out of the kindness of her own heart, I'm going to bake a cake, and we're going to have this new tradition. Like, every Friday, 30 minutes a day, we just eat cake, and we just chit-chat, and we just kind of
That's great.
relax.
That builds morale.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
And it was like everybody loved it. Everyone hopped on. Everybody was like, it was improving.
Cake.
Yeah, it was improving everything. She even said like more bugs were fixed on Cake Day, because that's what they called it, like on Cake Day than any other day, because it was like everyone was communicating. She got to know people in different departments. She knew who to email right away because she was like, okay, this person does this person does this.
Because it's Cake Day.
It was just all positive, right? Mm-hmm. One of her bosses apparently pulled her aside and was like, hey, you can't do that anymore. Like, it's just, it looks like you guys are slacking off. You guys can't do that anymore. So just like in her own words, it was like she was basically jeopardizing her career by making cakes for people. So I was like, wow, dude, like how it's like it's fucked up for one, right?
Well, yeah.
And two, it's like for L.A. Noire, like really, like no offense to that game, I like it's obvious now that like a ton of people worked on it, but like that's really like, was it worth it? Is my point. Like, it's just such a mediocre game. Like it was still buggy in the end. There's still bugs in it. Like
we've experienced in game.
Yeah, like that game is mostly a joke, like it.
Yeah, which is why Steven loves to play it.
Oh yeah, love it. But yeah, and it's just like then to hear that like the team got fucking disbanded afterwards because like Rockstar's.
Yeah, it's kind of the state of the video game industry. I know a lot of people that I know personally who worked for a lot of game studios that you think, oh, they put out these AAA titles. Of course, they're wonderful to work for. It's like, no, like the reality is that the game industry is pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not trying to like make some political statement, but it's like Easy Allies personally were just saying like, yeah, it's like because it's not unionized and like it's like it's what am I trying to say? It's like games are passion projects, so people want to work on them. Right. And when there's this time where it's like, oh, we like that time where they have to crunch to get a game out or something, it's like they still want to do it, they still want to make the best game possible, and it's like it's almost like it's hard to make the distinction, like
it's unfair to the employees because they'll want the employees to like work as hard as they can until they literally cannot pay them for another week, and they're like, okay, bye.
Yeah,
we can't afford you. And then the employee could turn around and be like, hey, I just got let go, can somebody please, I'm a this and this, I'm good at this, I've worked on this game for the last 2 years, please, I'm looking for a new job, just got let go. And then the company will call them and be like, what are you doing? Why did you say that we let you go? It's like, because you did. What do you want me to do, not work?
Yeah, like Rockstar did have some like those stories only came out now because of because of NDAs. Yeah. Like they recently got released from like some NDA or some shit. So it's like Jesus Christ, dude. It's like it makes me not even like want to enjoy Red Dead.
That's true.
But in fact, I am.
Okay, but we'll say this because both he and I we were playing it together, and there's a big cinematic intro that takes place like in the snow, and it's just the worst. Just the worst.
I would say the entire snow part in the beginning.
Yeah, it's the worst.
The first like 2 hours are pretty not exciting. I don't think the game is like super intuitive when it comes to controls, and not just controls, like showing you the controls.
Yeah, it's not
because I've told you this a bunch of times too. Like I think I said it in our Play Toons episode, but it's like I'm trying to read something at the top left of the screen, and I'll just die. because like they're trying to tell me what to do, and it's like they're not pausing the game. They're not finding some clever way to like show me through design without words. It's just literally pasting the words at the top of the screen, and I'm like, okay, slowly hold down the right trigger so you can draw, and then when you press it down, you have this much time to draw, and then I'm dead. Like,
and just to clarify, Steven has a huge TV. It's like when we're playing it here in my house for Play Toons. I have set up like above my main computer. I have another screen set up.
Yeah.
That's maybe 20 inches across, maybe. And so it's small. I was like, oh, okay, can't read that. But Steven was like, dude, it doesn't matter. I have it on like almost a 4K TV at my house, and it's like it's impossible to read that.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going back to the days of like Dead Rising, where the text was like that tiny, and they're like, oh, it's okay. They got huge TVs. They'll be able to read it.
What a trip, huh? That was ridiculous. That was the first game where it was like, you don't have an HD TV. Fuck you. Because this is optimized for big TVs, good TVs.
But that being said, this got out of the snow and then took this long ass trip where I had the whole day and ride almost completely in silence. And I was like, finally I'm in the main part of the game. And then we started just exploring and doing like these side missions. I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I love this game.
Yeah, it's good. Like I really like the scenery. The map this time around is a little bit better than I thought was in Red Dead Redemption 1.
Okay.
A little less classic-y Western, a little more like, what am I trying to say? Like, I want to say rainforesty, but I don't think that's the term.
No, there's more vegetation, sure.
Yeah.
But it's not as barren as it was before.
Yeah, there's like Rocky Mountains, there's nice lakes, there's snow regions, obviously.
There's a lot of pine trees, rocks.
It's good.
It's just a lot of, and then the different. There's a lot more variance in the type of like land that you see, because we in the playthrough we went to a swamp and then we were in the dry lands.
Yeah.
We had just gone down from the snow. I was like, there's a lot of variance here in this small area that we've explored.
Good amount of animals too, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, a lot of animals.
Like I don't know how many were in the first game, but we got like rabbits, we got like deer,
Steven shot a bunch of pigs.
I shot a bunch of pigs and I skinned them. I couldn't get the meat though because it was too heavy.
No, too heavy. Too heavy for that. No, but what is it called? Preliminary review. Is I'm enjoying it again.
Yeah, I like it. It's obviously not the best game though. Like I just named off a bunch of flaws. Another one is I guess this is just aiming on consoles in general. It's like,
yeah, that's something you have to get used to.
But
here's the thing:
the snappy auto aim to me is so bad. Like
it's not terrible.
No, but I literally like
you're just not used to it, because like when I took over the control, I was getting headshots. When you shoot somebody like with one shot kill, sometimes it'll slow down and show you, oh look, you got him right in the head. I was getting those left and right.
Yeah, I don't mind. That's not the problem. I just don't feel like I deserve it. You know, like I'll literally just line the camera up with somebody, right, and then I'll come out of cover and it'll snap to them and I'll shoot, and I'll go behind cover again and I'll come back and it'll shoot to the next guy, and it's just kind of like, this isn't. How is this even gameplay? Like, to me, it's like it's just way too automatic and like too automated.
I don't necessarily mind that, because it kind of gives you the benefit that like this guy's a gunfighter.
Okay.
Or a gunslinger.
I guess, but in my head, all I'm thinking is like, you're taking control away from me.
Fair enough.
I want full control, and let me give you an example of how that can go wrong. I was on my horse, right?
Right.
I'm in town. And the last game I played on PS4 was Spider-Man. In Spider-Man, you hold R2 to run.
Right.
In this game, you hold X to run. Okay? I hold down R2 out of habit because of Spider-Man. He pulls out his gun, it immediately snaps to the nearest civilian, and I shoot them in the heart and I kill them, and now I have a bounty.
Yep.
Like, what the fuck? Like, if I didn't have auto aim, sure, I might just shoot the ground and scare people, right? But you can diffuse situations like that. It has a button for it, and I don't know. That was just like, it's just kind of like a buzzkill to be like, oh man, I'm ready to go on this mission. Nope, someone's dead. Now everyone's gonna shoot me, and I'm gonna lose my hat. Like, it's like,
that's funny.
Yeah. But anyway, besides all that, I'm still really enjoying it. Some of the side quests are pretty creative.
Yeah, they're fun.
It's just cool being a cowboy, you know. Like I like how they added a lot of details to like customize your guy.
Yeah, you can shave and
stuff. I have
a
ton of clothes. I can have like a cool mustache, which I can't have in real life. So this is
dream come true.
This is a dream come true. I can finally shave. Look at that. It looks nice, right? Sorry, you can't see any of it.
He's pointing at his face.
Yeah. But yeah. So, I'm sure like anybody who's thinking about getting it has already got it or whatever. But we're gonna play some more, and we'll probably talk about it more next week. Because that's just the tip of the iceberg, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
It's like a fucking 9 million hour game or something like that. So
I don't think we're going to be changing anybody's minds here because everybody's already gone out and bought it. But once you get through the snow, the real game starts.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Fuck the snow, as they say.
Nobody says that.
Yeah. But me and Ernie just finished a little show called Daredevil.
Daredevil Season 3.
Season 3.
Hot off the presses.
And you know what, too? I feel like no one's talking about it.
I think it's because like it came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I think that first weekend people were like, "Oh my god, Daredevil! Oh my god, Daredevil!" You watched it in a single weekend.
It was like 4 days. Yeah,
it took a little longer. It took about a week to watch the whole thing, and I gotta say I agree with you because that week I heard stuff about Daredevil, but then like the next week nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay. Anyway, so spoilers here on out for Daredevil.
Yes, spoilers to the max because we're going to be
spoilers.
Talking. I have so much to say, but let's. I mean, you could already tell we both loved it.
I really liked it. Yeah, I don't really know where I would place it. Every season of Daredevil has been pretty damn good.
Yeah, but in its own different way because like. I think the first and this last season have the most in common because they have a common bad guy, which is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. But there were so many great moments in the first one that you can't beat, even though like it's the same characters, right? Like the very end of season 1 when he puts on the costume and he beats Fisk and puts him in jail. Like again, spoilers. But I don't know who didn't see this coming. Fisk goes back to jail, right? But it's a different feeling than the first one.
Yeah.
And it's a different, like... Oh, my gosh.
You're saying he goes back to jail at the end of Season 3.
Yeah, Season 3. But, like, the way that he goes back in Season 3, as opposed to the first time he goes to jail in Season 1, I feel like the finale, it feels almost more finite in Season 3 than it does in Season 1.
Well, yeah, because he's made the deal and he's realized that, like... Fisk has a crutch or like a weakness, which is Vanessa or whatever that girl that he lives. By the way, is Vanessa the same actress that she was in the first season?
I was about to ask you that.
Because I feel like she looks different.
She might, or maybe she just got a little older.
Who knows? Okay. Well, anyway, so my initial thought, right, going into Daredevil Season 3, I was like, this show doesn't really need to blow my mind. I just really am interested to see what they have left in the Daredevil universe, right?
Right.
Because it's kind of like they've exhausted Elektra, they've exhausted Punisher. Like, what are they going to do now? And to think that, like, they're just going to bring back Fisk, add Bullseye, and that's going to be enough, it was like, it was more than enough. Yeah. Like, I was, like, so fucking pleased with it. It's ridiculous. But mostly because it's like, I was comparing it to Season 1, right? I was like, Season 1 had that fight scene in the hallway.
Oh my gosh.
That's it's like infamous, right? And I was like, I wasn't expecting them to top it,
And they did.
Which was ridiculous.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so just to recap real fast.
And that was like in the first, 3 episodes, I want to say?
It was episode 4.
It was episode 4, and it was like, dude, it's already here?
Super unexpected, too, because it's like, the episode starts with him getting to the jail, right? And I'm just like, okay, seems like it's
going to be one of those ones where he chit-chats.
Pretty run-of-the-mill, it's like, there's going to be some chit-chat, he's going to do some lawyer shit, and then he's going to get out.
Right.
It was the opposite. He gets in there, and it's a trap.
Dude.
Everyone's on Fisk's payroll, and they're just all like, get him. And he has to fight his way through this like like high security prison, basically.
By the way, it was unclear to me in that part. So just to set up that particular episode, Matt goes there because he's Fisk is making deals with the FBI, and the way he does that is he turns over a bunch of crime lords. Yeah. One of which is the Armenians. They just call them that. The Albanians. The Albanians. And when Matt goes to the prison, he's talking to a person who worked for the Albanians. Yeah. And then when he asks him about it, you see all these other gangsters go like, huh? Yeah. And so Matt gets punched by the guy, and he's like, get away from me. I'm not going to talk. And he walks off, and they're like, hey, we're going to go check you out. And then the orderly attacks Matt with a syringe. Okay. And then 3 guys come out. Right. That look like they're, what is it, Albanian, you said? Yeah. Albanian. So I don't know if it was like, I know Fisk calls him and says, I was gonna kill you. Mm-hmm. Right. But was it just the nurse, or was it the 3 guys outside too? Because then after that, he runs into the Albanian leader. I think the nurse was Fisk's doing, right? Obviously. Mm-hmm. But the Albanians were just there to fuck with them because what did he do in the he was like interviewing that guy beforehand. Yeah, he had gone there to get information about the Albanians, and from him. He asked about them, and they didn't like that because they were all shooting eyes at him. No, and as soon as he did, the guy was like, "I'm gonna punch you in the face and say, get away from me." And to be fair, like all he was doing was asking to see like their leader or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's what was pissing them off because they were just they don't like it when you ask about it. Yeah, exactly. Stuff. So you don't. But eventually, like after that initial part, I think that's where the camera starts rolling. And guys, it's insane how they keep that shot going throughout the entire prison until he gets out. It's like an 8-minute sequence that is never breaks. That is, it seemingly never breaks, but it looks like there's parts where they could have. Obviously. But like there was a good like 5 minutes where it was just continuous, and there's no way they could have done any trick to hide it. So it was pretty amazing. I wasn't expecting to see that. I wasn't expecting to see that in episode 4. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like, it just came out of nowhere. And also, it's like, you might think like, oh, okay, it's a single shot, and they're just kind of doing it to flex or whatever people say, right? But it's like, it really adds an element of like suspense and like urgency to the scene, especially because it's like Matt Murdock is trapped in a high security prison, and me myself as the audience, I'm like, how the fuck is he gonna get out of this? Like, he's blind. How is he gonna, like, he has basically no superpowers. Like, how is he gonna get out of this? So it's really funny because that moment in the prison where the Albanian leader essentially has a bunch of people working for him at the prison as well. And so he's like, he tells a guy that looks like a guard, he's like, escort him out, get him out of here. And he's like a cop, like he's one of the riot people, and he like as later on you find out Fisk has most of the FBI on his payroll. Yeah. So it's like it almost mirrors that. He's like, I'm here in prison, but I control this prison. Right, yeah, that particular one is that guy. Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, I control this prison, so it doesn't matter that I'm here. Yeah, it's probably why he went there, to be honest. Yeah. Like, and so and then immediately after that, they're like, immediately after that, he gets in the cab, he blacks out, and then wakes up to somebody trying to murder him. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I forgot about that. Right away, it's like, oh shit, I'm not out, and then like the episode ends with the cab going underwater. Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about this series, though, is like, or I should say, this season, Fisk and Daredevil are like constantly at odds, and they're nowhere near each other. No. Like Fisk is just like so good at strategizing. Right. And that's the kind of villain that I really like, is like the ones that are just not brute force, like, unmotivated people. Like, this guy knows what he's doing, and not only does he know what Daredevil's going to do or what the cops are going to do, but he's like 5 steps ahead of them. Because it's like once they get somewhere, it's like Fisk has already been there, and like he set it up for them to be there. Like he knew. It just... I love that kind of shit. It's so good. It's really good writing, honestly. Like, it's fantastic writing. The one thing is that you said earlier, where you were like, "What do they have left?" One of the big surprises this season was that they focused a lot on other characters.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like somebody I was discussing this with was like, there's not a lot of Daredevil in Daredevil season 3. Because it's not, because it's mostly Poindexter, Fisk, Foggy, the nurse, and Karen.
Who's the nurse?
I'm sorry, the nurse, the nun, and Karen.
Yeah, his mother.
And the episode with Karen, where you find out why she left her house.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's just like.
I personally found that episode a little bit boring.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, the first time I watched it, it was definitely like, yeah, okay, I understand that they got to show this, you know, like, I want to know more about Karen. But when I rewatched it the second time, I definitely skipped it because I was like, I get it. Like, I want to
Did you get how, like, the motif of the entire third season was, like, abandonment?
Sure, I could see that. A lot of...
Because Karen was abandoned... Daredevil was abandoned.
There was a lot of there was a lot of callbacks to childhoods too,
because that's how they're all unified. Like Karen, Matt Murdock, and Poindexter and Fisk, all of them were abandoned by their families.
Yeah, you know what's cool about Karen too is like I'll say this about her, like I really didn't think that character would have that much depth. Really? Like from the first season where she kills, it's the first season, right?
Where she kills Wesley.
Yeah.
Dude, that was the part where I was like, "Oh my god, are we just never gonna talk about that?" She pulled a gun on a guy, shot him, and didn't even think anything of it.
It's so cool how she can use that in this season as like leverage over Fisk to get him to snap.
I was like, "What?" She told him finally.
It's cool just because it's like man, like what a way to utilize everything you have in this show. You know, like.
Yeah.
It's like they're like using every part of the buffalo. There's no waste here. You know, like they're not just introducing characters to have them shafted. You know, every character that gets introduced is like a point of interest, and like they're all part of this grand scheme.
I mean, I really did enjoy Poindexter. Especially the episode that focused on his process.
Yeah, that episode was awesome. Just because of not just because of the way it was shot. The way it was shot was super cool. Like, Fisk is just, like, sitting there listening to his tapes. And it goes, like, black and white. And he's just, like, sitting next to him literally as a child. It was like, fuck, dude. It's like, that's how Fisk is. He's literally, like, in this guy's mind right now.
Right.
Like, he's learning about him. He's, like, he's putting himself in his childhood. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's just so good. I just love that episode.
And then just to go into that a little bit, the choices that they made stylistically in this season, they had this great way of shooting parts where either Matt or Poindexter or all these people were talking to themselves in their own heads.
Right.
But the way that they did it was like they would have the person in focus very close to the camera. And then, for example, the first time Matt hears for the first time again because he's been beaten to hell and he can't hear. But then the first time he hears that Fisk is out of jail. So he goes to the police department. And then you see behind him, in like super blurry, Wilson Fisk walks out and talks directly to him. He's like, "You can't beat me.
Yeah.
I'm out of prison and you know I'm going to have them wrapped around my finger pretty soon, blah, blah, blah." And then like Matt's having this private conversation. It was like they did it a couple different times, and each time it was more and more powerful, especially when he talked to like his father the same way. Yeah. Or when Poindexter was talking to Fisk.
Yeah,
the same way.
I'm surprised like Stick didn't come out for one of those or anything like that.
Well, Stick was. I think the finality of Stick in the last season was enough. I didn't think they were going to bring him back at all. There was no reason.
Yeah, I guess so. But that's a good point to bring up, just because it's almost like I was reminded how good Daredevil was, you know? Because like I just watched Iron Fist and Luke Cage season 2, and I was going into season 3 just like it's all I need to do is really be better than those two shows, and I'm good, you know? Right. Like I'm not trying to like hold it to some higher standard, but it's just like Daredevil's done good work in the past. They've got some talented people on there. This was their first Marvel show. Right. They have all of the resources here, you know? Right. And it's just so good to see it like masterfully executed, you know? Like not only is the writing good, it's like the cinematography's good. You know, like it's cinema quality, like like the way it's shot, and even like the foreshadowing. I didn't even get this until the second time I watched it, but it's like Fisk wears white, and it's like foreshadowing his wedding at the end.
Right.
It's like I was like, it's like a subtle hint at like, oh, okay. Like at first I was like, oh, he wears white because of the comic books, right? They're just gonna throw that in.
Right.
It wasn't just that. It was like a hint that he's planning something big at the end, and it was his wedding. So I was just like, fuck, like
the amount of subtlety in this thing was really great. Like that's a great thing to point out was the white suit. But the other thing that I thought was really fun was, they never call him Bullseye.
Right.
They always call him Poindexter or Agent Poindexter, whatever they call him. But they show the symbol for Bullseye without really putting any attention to it.
Yeah, there's a scene where
he's playing baseball. And he's playing baseball as a kid, and this is when Fisk is trying to get into his head.
Yeah.
And he has the hat on with the little bullseye symbol.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he has that.
And they show it kind of as he's putting it on and everything, and they show it for a second, but they don't really say, and that's how he took the name Bullseye.
Yeah, or they don't even,
it's not even necessary.
They don't even say Bullseye
throughout
the entire series.
No.
And then there is this really cool shot where there's these weird decorative cross things in the church, and Matt Murdock walks into the center of one of these circles, and it just looks like a bullseye. It's so cool. I was so impressed, man. I was like, it's when you're just watching something good, and it's just they're not fucking up the whole time you're watching it, and you're just like, yes, that's exactly how I felt.
I love that any power that anybody has in these Marvel universes always comes with some sort of burden. It's never just look, I'm dope.
Yeah.
So Bullseye, they decided that instead of just having him be really good at throwing or aiming things with his hands, is it's part of his mental instability.
Right.
When he gets focused on something, he can't let it go.
Yeah.
And they show that by him with the baseball.
Yeah, he's got this tunnel vision kind of thing.
And so they show him, throwing a baseball, ricocheting it off the floor, and then bouncing it off this one part in the wall, and so much so that it breaks the cement blocks in there.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you get it. He's really good at this, but only when he's super razor focused. He can throw things and be that accurate. I love that. It's a tune to the way that Matt lost his sight but gained a power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, because they're not really supernatural. They're just it's just something that came second nature to their what do I say, their mental problems or some kind of tragedy. Yeah.
Exactly.
But he was such a good bad guy, dude. I think honestly, Jessica Jones season 1 had a good villain. I think Bullseye was right up there with them. Just the fact that when Bullseye comes onto the scene, when he's in an episode, I'm there's a threat right now.
Some shit's gonna go
the
down.
Stakes are the stakes are high right now.
Yeah.
Anybody could die because he literally just goes around killing people.
Yeah. He's set loose.
Yeah, and it's just that's the scariest part of him basically is that when he comes on screen, anybody could die.
Right.
And that's I think what they I mean obviously what they intended, but just what makes him so fucking scary at all times is who's gonna die now? All right, he's here. He's got a pencil. Someone's gonna die. You better watch out.
He just has pieces of glass, or will throw something in your neck.
Yeah, he literally.
By the way, bravo for this season. They had the suit, and they were like, "What if we had the bad guy wear the suit the whole time?" And Matt goes back to wearing that junky black suit that he wore in the first season. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's absolutely brilliant because not only do you have the motif of him fighting himself, because they do it a lot where they foreshadow or they blatantly talk about what if he's me and him grew up kind of similarly. It's one false move and I would have turned into Bullseye or would have turned into Poindexter myself.
Yeah.
And they do it it's such a cool motif to have him fight himself essentially, but they never there was a second suit, so just as easily he could have put the suit on again and fought him or spray painted it black and made a new suit or whatever, But they were like, nah, he's just gonna fight him like that.
Because he says it right. He's like, you want your suit back? And he's like, no, I've outgrown what it represents or something. Yeah. So I'm like, cool. Great. I'm like, cool. You don't need that shit, dude.
But
like,
it's so funny.
You got ropes now,
dude. Like,
you got hand ropes.
It's Muay Thai gloves, yeah.
Dude, those look cool.
Look badass. I love it because he made it harder for himself. Because the fact that he couldn't be pointed, he's like, he has the suit. It protects him against punches and all this stuff. And so, like, Matt was at a disadvantage the entire time.
Yeah.
And then he put on the Muay Thai gloves. I thought that was a cool transformation because it shows that, like, he was fighting everybody as a boxer. And, like, these like, Krav Maga kind of, like, fighting in the very beginning. And now he's evolved past it. He's like, even his dad was like, you haven't put on your Muay Thai gloves in forever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got to get in closer. I can't let him throw things at me. I got to be close the whole time. And I guess that's the point of that fighting style, is to always be really close.
I'm not sure if this is correct, but I believe Muay Thai is the art of killing.
Well, there you go. Like, that makes even more sense because he was like, as soon as I put these on, he's like, I'm gonna kill.
Because that's what Sagat is. That's what, like, Sagat's style, obviously, in Street Fighter. And I believe that, like, I read somewhere like that's what it means or something. I don't know. I forget. I could be wrong. But yeah, it's like it totally makes clear what his intention is this time around. Like, it's not just jail isn't good enough, obviously, because it's like it hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't worked, and like.
And then, like, the last thing I want to bring up that's super important to me is Agent Nadim was probably the most compelling character in the entire. Like, when I say compelling, as not as entertaining, not as like the one that transformed most, but like he was the most intriguing character because he starts off as like this guy who has everything. Like, he's your quintessential like protagonist where he has everything, and then all of a sudden these troubles start, and he gets himself into a hole, and then you expect him to like rise out of it. Right? There's even like the second to the last episode of the season's called the last shot or one last shot. And it's like Agent Nadim's like, I'm gonna testify, I'll go to jail, I don't care, I gotta get Fisk. And so like getting Nadim to the jail, there's like a shootout. People are trying to kill him. They try to stop him. They try to do everything and anything Fisk throws at him. And then when he finally does his testimony, he does this whole thing, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. He's going to get out of this mess. His family's going to be safe, blah, blah, blah. And then Daredevil's like, he's got the jury on his side.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's going to go free.
What was it? It was like, because there's some like shit about like a jury. You're supposed to say if you know somebody on the jury.
Right.
And like what the guy did basically was right after the trial finished, he was like, oh, I know everyone's name and address, and that like, it like discredits the whole trial or something, or like it.
So what he did was they're sequestered because they have to talk about whether or not that's enough to, like, indict Kingpin.
Yeah.
Fisk. But while they're in the room privately, he says all their names and their addresses and their phone numbers and everything because they don't necessarily need to tell each other their names.
They're just not supposed to know each other beforehand or something.
Right, but that's not it. He's like, he cries and he's like, they told me to memorize everybody's name and addresses. And they're like, so that means that Fisk knew where they all lived and he knew all of them by name. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. So he
basically said, if you indict me, I know where you live. I know everything about you. I know where your family is.
Right, okay. So it's just a big elaborate threat.
Yeah, it's just a elaborate threat. And the guy that was told to say all of it was like, I'm sorry, they told me to memorize all of that. And he's crying and he's like, well, I wonder what they did to him. So it's like, even after all that, Nadim's like, oh my gosh, it can't win. And it's like, but what's funny is that the ending of that episode is like, Nadim's like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to die at my house. Poindexter comes after him. And it's like, he knew what was going to happen, and he had this plan, but Fisk is in his tower, whatever, right? Yeah. Him and his wife are finally back together. They're doing their thing, but she's like, I don't want to just be a part of your life. I want to be in your life. So, and this is the interesting part. He brings her down to the control room where he's doing all his criminal activity.
Right.
And he's like, we found Agent Nadim, and he's like, oh, okay. So what we'll do is he'll come and we'll discredit his testimony and blah, 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 blah. And then his wife says, wouldn't it be easier to just kill him?
Yeah.
And he says, it would be easier. He's like, what's Poindexter doing? And he's like, well, it's like, let's send him. Mm-hmm. It's actually her decision that buries Fisk later.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a nice little like wink to be like, that's his weakness, is her.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if she hadn't suggested that, they would have gone with his plan, where it's like, let him testify, and then we'll discredit him. We'll destroy him from the inside. Because it's one thing for a dead man, like for somebody to die says more than like if you bring somebody up and then you discredit them.
Make him look like a liar.
Exactly. Destroy his life that way. But like her decision is what set the whole thing in balance, because Nadim's like, he records this admission of guilt on his deathbed. Yeah. And apparently that's admissible in court, and that's how they ultimately get him.
Yeah, what is it called? Like your last declaration or your last... Yeah. Something like that. Which is cool, because like it was a good way to bring like some kind of... what am I trying to say? Like it was a good way to end, I guess, the character. Right. Because he wasn't really like a sympathetic character, in my opinion.
He was
towards the end, like, because in the beginning he was really just, you know, like, we don't have enough money, and I'm gonna promise my son like a pool and all this shit, like all this material crap. Right. And he was just like, I need more money. Like one for his sister's healthcare or whatever. But
well, no, that's what it bankrupted him, because they were basically paying for her. Mm-hmm. To get healthy and everything, yeah. You know, but he's like the hospital's trying to screw us or whatever. So they were gouging him, obviously, and so he was. That's where he was spending his money.
Yeah, and it was all Fisk's doing. Yeah, like you find out later, like he had this big scheme that was like, I'm gonna fuck like a couple of agents into wanting to like get at me later for a pay raise. And that's who I'm gonna that's who I'm gonna, what do they call it? Like bad cop, you're a bad cop,
discredit?
You're dirty, like a dirty cop. That's who he's gonna do. That's what he's gonna get. Okay. That's how he's gonna get him or whatever. Sorry. But yeah, and then like at the end, it's like the only way that he could basically beat Fisk was like he had to give up his own life.
Right,
it's like,
and then his family would be safe.
Yeah, and it's pretty dramatic, but it's like,
it worked.
All right, yeah. It's like I can't don't speak ill.
And it wouldn't have worked if he hadn't died that night from Poindexter.
Yeah, it was all what's her face's fault? Vanessa's fault.
It really was Vanessa's fault, because that was his weakness.
You know what I found funny is like the last scene where Daredevil and Fisk are fighting. Mm-hmm. The whole time he's like, "Run, Vanessa," and she's just like standing there, like watching them fight. I was like, "Leave! What are you doing?"
I know. By the way, did you notice, like, it's a small thing, but did you notice his jackets all had lining on the inside to make them bulletproof?
Yeah, they said that in season 1.
That's so cool that they kept that going.
Yeah, because at one point he like puts his arm up to block like these knives,
and they don't penetrate his jacket.
Yeah, and then he puts his jacket over Vanessa,
and she's like, "But what about you?" And he's like, "Please take it."
Yeah. So
it's great, isn't it? It's like a subtle hint to the first season.
It was cool, yeah, because it was like if you didn't watch the first season, you don't know what the fuck he's doing. Yeah, you know, and it's like
so subtle.
They won't. They're not even gonna like remind you. It's like you should know, like what the fuck, like you know. One thing that was pretty crazy was that they actually killed off Melvin, the guy that made the suit. Yeah. So it's like that suit's really gone now, because it's like.
Wait, they killed him?
Yeah, he was in the freezer.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, and it's funny because he was taken away by the FBI. Yeah. It was when he was setting a trap for.
So the FBI killed him.
So yeah. No, well, I think the FBI was going to kill him anyway.
Yeah.
Because if you think about what was happening, like they were probably going to kill Melvin and they were going to catch Daredevil with the suit. Yeah. Because if he was alive, they'd be like, well, who's paying you and who's this? And who's that?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, that's fucking crazy. Because now I'm like, now the suit's really gone. Like,
that's for sure.
Like, what are they gonna do now? But that's another thing to bring up real quick before we end this is, I like how so Fisk kills Julie, right? Which is somebody that's really important to Poindexter, right? She's like his North Star or whatever the fuck they say.
Yeah. Right? And not too much of a side thing. I don't want to cut you off, but like his therapy works when he has somebody to guide him. Right. And so when his therapist eventually dies from some sort of illness, she's like, you need to find somebody that's like that to help guide you.
Right.
And he finds this girl named Julie because they worked at this suicide prevention hotline.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then now you can take it.
And he was just he just became infatuated with her because of how kind and caring she was, and
right.
Nurturing all that crap that people like in mother figures or whatever.
Right. He didn't care about her like romantically.
No, yeah.
And he made that super clear. It's like, I just need somebody to talk to.
That's what I was saying. It's like almost like a mother or something, where it's like he just needed somebody to talk to and tell him that everything's gonna be all right because he's a little baby boy. And Fisk has her killed.
Right.
They get her phone and she just blocks his number and says, "I don't ever want to see you again."
Right.
I thought when they did that, this was just going to be like Daredevil killed her. Like and like that would have been so typical, and they didn't. They didn't do that.
They just sort of I don't know where she went.
Yeah, I was so surprised. And it's like it is more in Fisk's fashion to do that. Like kind of just like why? Like it's unnecessary. Like you don't need to do that. Like he already hates Daredevil. He works for me. If he's gonna kill Daredevil, it's because I told him to. It's like I'm not fucking like trying to trick him like Knuckles. It's like this is like straight up like I don't know. It's just so cool how he did that. It was just it was very classy.
I just want to do the last few things about it because it was a fantastic season. It's one of the best. Each season though I have problems. Like the last one it was like Elektra, and the first season I was like this whole like. In the first season, the whole like transformation of his suit wasn't that great, in my opinion. But in this one, the big problems for me, first of all, was the ending. The absolute ending of the whole thing, where he like the last scene is like Bullseye's spine gets broken in the fight with Fisk, and then he like they're working on his spine, and then all of a sudden he goes, like you see his eye. There's a bullseye symbol in his eye. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Like you're
like, what is this?
You're like, man, they did such a good job with the subtlety in this show. And then, it's just like all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, cool.
That's what that is.
Hey, in case you guys didn't know, that's Bullseye. Here it is in his eye. Oh, okay.
It's in his eyeballs. That was pretty cheesy. I didn't care for that whatsoever.
I know it's a lot of that scene actually because. The way the doctors are talking about it too is just so like, who are you talking to?
Oh my God.
What is this for? Like,
by the way,
just talking directly to the audience right now. Like,
just a quick hint because like they call him like Doctor. I forget his name. It's actually somebody important that's talking to him. He's called Oyama, Dr. Oyama. So Dr. Oyama is like obviously he's a doctor, but he has like this infatuation with putting metal together with bodies and everything.
Wolverine is what you're gonna say.
No. Lady Deathstrike. That's his daughter.
Oh, okay.
So that's how they kind of like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's like it's not necessarily like, oh look, see he's doing the same experiment on Bullseye, but then there's the callback already. There's a connection to like Lady Deathstrike and Lady Deathstrike to Wolverine. Because there's a pretty big like fight between like Wolverine and Daredevil because of their kind of extra sensories. Kind of stuff, but. Like that's that kind of stuff I love. That scene in particular was so heavy-handed.
Yeah, and
it was like if I'm doing stuff with you, I don't go like, "Hey, Steven Moreno."
Yeah,
I don't think you should be doing that. I was like, who talks like that? But he's like, Dr. Oyama. I don't know, blah blah blah. He's like, he knew the risks.
Yeah,
I was like, who talks like that right in the middle of a surgery?
Yeah, he knew the risk was the parts where I was just like. Okay, like I guess. If you really needed to say that out loud, like you guys are doctors, right? You guys are intelligent. You guys pick
also,
up...
he woke up. I don't know if you guys. He woke up in the middle of the surgery. So.
Is that part of the comics though? Does he have an adamantium spine or like a metal spine? Or
I think they fix it in a part. Yeah, they show that he did work on like. They say that he was a doctor who did experiments on patients. So I don't know. I haven't combed through all of the comic books, but it doesn't seem that far-fetched.
Does Bullseye have a metal spine in the comic
book? I don't know actually. That's a good point.
It almost seems like that was like kind of just thrown in there. I'm not sure though.
Some of the other stuff I didn't like was the I know that.
Well, like I said, I could have done with like a shorter Karen Page episode. Like it was all good, but it was a little too like. I think maybe the placement of it in the series was just like right when I was like, just go back to Daredevil, please. Like this train needs to keep going. Like I just really want to see like where this ends already. Like there's just a lot of adrenaline the whole series. You know,
no, I get it. I mean, there was at the end of that story, but like I totally get what you're saying. The other part of the series that it's not that I didn't like it, or I didn't love it. Is more like it. It was there, and I was just like, okay, what is the point of this? Was the revelation that Daredevil's mother was the nun that was caring for him when he was a kid.
I like that.
I didn't love it.
Okay.
I think it was cool, but it kind of came out of nowhere because like it was a stupid way to reveal it. To be honest, because like Matt can hear through walls,
right? And
then all of a sudden she goes upstairs and is like, oh, "Our son is so stubborn, Jack." And I was like, why would you say that? Like, why? Like, you know he can hear through walls. He can hear upstairs. He's already proven that he can.
Maybe she didn't.
And all of a sudden, you're just like, oh, man.
I don't think she kept track of when he was there.
Well, I mean, I think she had just left him. But, like, the revelation doesn't really go anywhere. Like, what he gets that, and then he's like, shame on you.
But she yeah, you could say that she did that on purpose, though. Because there's parts later on where he's like escorting the hostages, where she'll whisper and she was talking to him.
No, I
like
understand.
she knew that he could hear him.
See, that's what I mean. It's like, but
so I think she did that on purpose.
I understand the motif there because again, the whole concept was like it was abandonment and redemption were the two big things.
It was also hinted at early on. I caught it like the second time around, but she says like, "Oh, I used to watch your father fight," and all this shit about him, and it's like, at first you're kind of just like, "Who cares? You're a fucking nut. I don't care about you."
Right.
But second time around, you're like, "Oh, you watched his father fight. I get it." Like, even even with the fact that she's okay with bringing in a boxer like beat up Matt,
right?
Like as she's like cleaning him up and stuff, you can tell like she's like happy because it's like. She's like reliving this moment that she had with Jack, whatever the fuck his name is. So it was kind of cool. I see like that. Those are the kind of things I like about the show. You know, like these little hints of foreshadowing and like, you know, just little nuances like that really made it good.
Plus, like another thing that I liked but didn't love was the very big focus on mental health. Like her mental health was the reason that she abandoned him. And then Poindexter's mental health is what's turning him into a psychopath. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and those two things kind of clashed when they met up at the when Poindexter came to the church. Yeah. You know, again, it was one of those things where I was like, okay.
It was
but I didn't love it.
Well, there was themes, like definitely there was themes throughout the whole thing.
That's one thing that these series do really well is themes.
Yeah, the Daredevil show has the Daredevil show.
Starring Daredevil.
Yeah, sound like an old man.
Oh, and lastly, this is the last thing I'll say.
Okay, go for it.
They ended this season in a way that mirrors the first season. In that, like at the end of the first season, it's like Daredevil suit. Yeah. Right. That iconic part of the comic books where he has his suit. Yeah. And then at the end of this one, they talk about fear, and then Matt Murdock in his eulogy to the fallen to the father, he was like, he taught me how to be the man without fear.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's
and
right.
I was like, that's so dope.
Is it Nadim? Is that Nadim's funeral?
No, that's the father's funeral. The priest.
The priest. That's right. Okay, you meant the literal father. Okay.
Yeah. So it's he says a man without fear. I was like, dude, I've been waiting for them to say something like that. Yeah. For the last 3 seasons.
It was really worked in very nicely. It felt really natural. It wasn't like forced in there like.
No. The entire speech was a thing about like not being afraid and like even though all the stuff that's happening in Hell's Kitchen, he opened his doors to anybody who wanted to come in and like being the man without fear.
That's what was great.
Like, wow, that's such a great speech.
What was great too is like just I really dug like the imagery as far as like all the Catholic crosses and like all the red and all the like I don't know, it was just so cool like to see it was really like what am I trying to say, like the fact that he was literally living in a church, like in the basement of a church, you know, like it's like they have the devil down below, like, you know, where it's like how people like point to hell is down below. It's like the devil was literally down there. Like, he was literally... It's crazy. It was just...
I mean, the symbolism is out of, like...
Symbolism, that's what I was
Yeah, the symbolism
for.
is crazy because, like, how do they escape the church? They literally hide in a sarcophagus.
Yeah, exactly.
To be, like, resurrect... Like, then after that, both of them are, like, new people almost.
Yeah.
Because they're, like, they came this close to dying. You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like,
right.
It's just a lot of symbolism that has to do... Like, if you've ever even picked up, like, 1 or 2 comics of the Daredevil series, like, in the 90s or early 2000s, it's always like him in a cross, him in a Catholic church. Like there's a big faith theme that goes throughout his
it's cool.
His series.
And even the way, like, I really like the way, like, it's he talks to, like, his mother and stuff. Like, just that classic, like it's like the basis of religion, basically, where it's like everyone thinks religion can't help them, right? And everyone thinks they're, like, above, like, believing in God and shit.
Right.
But it's like, advice is advice, you know? Like, solid advice is solid advice. Say what you will, but it's like, yeah, I don't believe in God, but if they say something that's gonna, like, make me see things in a new way, it's like, so be it. Like, that's just how things work. And, like, when he's talking to the nun and he's just constantly, like, trying to, like, when I'm trying to, like, sweep away her advice... he's just like, oh, your charmingly simplistic view of the world, and that's what he says to her and all this shit.
Right.
And it's just like she's old, dude. She knows what it's like to be alive for this long. Like, give her some fucking credit, you know? Like, that's respect your elders, you know? It's like there's a reason that Daredevil went to the confession every single night, you know? Like, this.
Right.
Even if you don't believe in, like, religion and stuff, it's like it's there. They're just trying to help. Basically, it was cool. It gave, like, some credence to, like, just elders in general, which I really like. You know. But let me just give my last final thought, I guess, because we're over time a lot. The last scene where he's fighting Fisk, I will admit, was a little bit cheesy. It almost looked like a fucking. Like, I was watching Broadway or something. Because, like, you have Vanessa on the staircase. And then, like, Bullseye's, like, on the floor. And for some reason, Fisk is just not fighting back anymore. He just has his arms, like, open. Like he wants to die almost. Like, I guess that's what he was saying. Like, he just wanted to die.
Yeah.
And then Matt takes his mask off. And he's all, like, bug-eyed because he's blind. Like, he's just like, you're going to go back to jail. And I don't want to see you again. I just, in my head, like, okay, I get it. He's blind, right? But he can see.
I know, but he can't necessarily move his eyes. His eyes don't focus or anything. So it's like, they're still a blind man's eyes, dude.
Okay,
he's not using them to see, so why would he move them?
Okay. Well, there's that scene in, like, I think it's season 2 where he's, like, it shows that, like, everything he sees looks like it's on fire or something. Right. Yeah. So it's like his eyes, like, they just can't focus. Like the pupils can't focus. But
No. I think the thing was, it's like everything's on fire, but it's like it's all in his head. How he pictures it in his head.
Oh, okay. So he literally can't. Yeah, he still literally can't see. Okay.
No, he can't see, but he develops this picture in his mind based on what he feels around him.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Or what he hears around him, I should say.
Yeah. But yeah, that scene was almost like, I don't know, like, overly dramatic, I guess. Like, I guess it was the climax of the series. I knew for the longest time, like, that the Rabbit in a Snowstorm painting. Yes. I was like, that's gonna get covered in blood.
Of course, they even, like, the fact that Poindexter gets it back and there's a small smidgen of blood on it, I was like, that thing's gonna get splattered in blood.
Exactly. Because, like, that was the whole point of it in the first place, right? Was that it reminded Fisk of, like, the stucco walls in his apartment when he killed his dad. I think with the hammer. Yeah. That's what, like, it was, like, representing or whatever. It was just, like, him staring at the wall when.
Plus, it was a gift from Vanessa.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that. You're right. Yeah. But yeah, amazing series so far. Like, I'm at the same place I was with season 2, where I'm just like, I can't believe it was so good. Mm-hmm. I can't even begin to understand how they will make it better in season 4 or how the show's going to continue. Because this,
I thought it was funny that they mentioned Jessica Jones at the end.
Yeah. I thought that was funny too, because it's like, oh, no Luke Cage, no Iron Fist, huh? You're just gonna
You're just gonna throw out just
because they got canceled, right? So you don't care. Like it was almost
these are all like you're talking about the closing of this season and how it's probably like if it goes on, it's like they mentioned Jessica Jones, they mentioned Lady Deathstrike's father, and then essentially Lady Deathstrike, and they're like and Bullseye.
Yeah, I say that because it's like season 3 was kind of unique in like that the Defenders happened like right before it.
Right.
So it's like if you watch season 1, season 2, you can't you can go to season 3, but you're missing a lot of Elektra and Daredevil interactions. Yeah. You know, so it's a little bit unique. I don't know if they're gonna do like Defenders season 2 and then do it to season 4 or something.
They could, but these are all things that are probably being talked about right now because of that Disney streaming service, because that's kind of messing everything up.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. But yes. I highly recommend Daredevil in 100%. Like, it is just so fucking good.
It's one of those things you're going to watch, and then you're just going to be like, why wasn't I watching this the entire time?
Yeah, and if you're worried about, like, you didn't watch the Defenders, there's a recap.
Yeah,
it literally goes over everything in Defenders. It's like, you don't even need to watch it. Unless you
it goes over everything that has to do with Daredevil and Defenders.
So if you're
caught up.
If you really want to skip Defenders, like, I would say go for it.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
Not that it's bad, but it's just like if you just want the good shit, there it is, Daredevil. It's all.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to go over, like some of the cinematography that is like it's amazing and then like
it's hard to go over when it's not like staring me right at the face right now.
Right,
because like I watched this like 2 weeks ago.
It's there's so many subtle things. Like I'll say something real quick. There's a balcony in Fisk's apartment. And like every other episode, they have this shot where somebody's standing at the top of the balcony looking into the living room. And each one of those shots, if you put them all together, it's like the different stages of like
his apartment
and everything. And it's like really poetic how you can see all 4 of those shots exactly the same. And then the last one is Daredevil staring down at it.
Right.
And it's Fisk over there on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much cinematography in this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's good, man. It's really good.
But if hit us up if you have any like other insights or anything.
Yeah.
Both Steve and I are on Twitter, so please, hit us up and message us if you like.
Our Twitter handles are in the description.
The description below.
Yes,
that's right.
They are. And so check out the SoundCloud and on iTunes, Radio Toons Podcast. If you didn't know the name.
Right.
That's us. And then just check out Red Dead if you want to play.
Yeah,
fun cowboy game,
Yeah, check out the YouTube channel. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to us on YouTube, you know where to find it. But definitely check out our gameplay stuff as well.
Yeah, Play Tunes, Soho Shuffle on YouTube. That's us. So yeah, that does it for this week, guys. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.